Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session on pricing. Yes, I am live. I thought I'd gone. I was on mute then, but yeah. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us. Now, just while the numbers are coming in and everybody's getting on, I just want to ask you a couple of quick questions in the chat box. So first of all, what I'd love for you to do is just change your chat box settings so that if you've loaded up your chat box, you've got there, by default, it says to all panelists. Drop that little box down where it says all panelists and just change it to all panelists and attendees. And that'll enable everybody to see. Now I'm going to ask, and it might be a blatantly obvious question, but I just want to ask this question. Is improving profitability through your pricing important to you? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. That'll make sure that I can see that everybody's being attentive. You can hear me. Fantastic stuff. Lots of yeses coming in. Arguably a leading question, but excellent stuff. Right. And well done, by the way, for the punctuality. I think most of the people that are registered are already on here now, and the number's still climbing up rapidly. So excellent stuff. Right. So everybody's putting a yes in there. I don't think I've seen a single no, which is fantastic. Sort of. Okay, that's a maybe. Okay. Now for my next question, it might take you maybe a minute or two just to type into the chat box this answer. What will improving the profitability of your practice enable you? Whether that's personally or for your practice. Maybe you want to invest in your practice. Maybe it'll give you something that you can do outside of running your practice that you can't do right now because maybe you're not taking enough out of the practice. So just have a think about what would that enable for you? Because really, you know, profitability, it's a word unless it has a greater meaning to us, isn't it? So invest in the practice, good stuff. Meet your personal financial goals, yeah, excellent answers so far. Yeah, oh wow, they're coming in a little bit quicker now, so I might not be able to reel them all off. So give me financial security, absolutely, that's incredibly important, isn't it? Things like this can keep us awake at night, can't they? Make a profit for a change, yeah. Retire earlier. Yeah, I was speaking to somebody recently actually who just said they're stuck in their practice. They can't retire because it's not worth what they need to get out of it to retire. So, okay, so lots of answers coming in there. Keep them coming in as well, by all means. Now, today's session is 99.5% Emma. And really, at the AVN Masterclass, and I know some of you on here will have attended an AVN Masterclass, Emma delivers an absolutely outstanding session on pricing, the pricing principles. I obviously delivered a mini version of just, you know, the ways that the mistakes people make, the value, the ways you can increase value a couple of weeks ago, but Emma's going to really build on that and give you so much more value that you can take away from this session. We've also got Chris, who's going to be sharing his story so far on how he's been turning his profitability around. So looking forward to that session. And then at the very end as well, Emma's going to be showing you a real shortcut on how you can really make this stuff happen so much faster in your practice. So really looking forward to that. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Emma to unmute herself. Emma is a practice growth expert for AVN. Many of you will know her from the regular sessions on Thursday. Emma's been part of AVN just as in last week for 20 years. And it's been an absolute pleasure working with Emma, and she has an oracle of knowledge within AVN. So over to you, Emma, and I'll turn my camera off as well, just to give you the full screen.
Thank you, Shane. I'm not sure I can live up to all of that, but I'll do my best. So I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to share my PowerPoint that I present when I'm at Masterclass so that you can see that. So let's get it going. Okay. So my first question, and the one that I'd expect most of you to be thinking about, is, you know, who feel confident that they're charging the right prices for their services? And the main thing is, how do you know? We should be getting the fees that we deserve, you know, and it should reflect our knowledge and our skills, but very often it doesn't. Very often we've grown our business by just taking on as many clients as we can. We've focused on GRF. We've thought about, you know, how can we build that up? and we've not always thought about how profitable those clients are. We've you know, like we see quite often, you know, you'll have seen how much the previous accountant have charged, and you'll undercut it to get the work, but in reality that doesn't reflect anything like the sort of value that you can bring to those clients. And often as well, you know, we often, because of that competitiveness, and because we often have a massive fear of talking about pricing, you know, the price that we charge stays the same year on year, because we don't want to sit down and have that conversation. And that's natural, to be honest, for accountants. We're not great at talking about pricing and for our services, and we're not also very good at actually explaining to people the value, because for us, we've learned all this stuff and we can do it like that, 5 minutes, whatever, and we think time, because that's all we've ever thought about is time. And so today I want to think a little bit about value, and I want you all to think about all the things that perhaps you do for free, the amount of times that you give away time and work, and you don't charge for it, because again, you don't want to rock the boat with the client, or you feel, oh well, I've just fixed that and it's too late to talk about price now. So it's natural for us to not want to talk about fees, but if we don't, we miss such a great opportunity. We miss a massive opportunity for making sure that the work's profitable, so that we can, you know, we're not doing stuff for free, you know. And a lot of the people that we talk to, the reason they can't leave their business is because it's not profitable. That's the big issue. And the second thing is, if you're not talking to your clients about fees, then you're missing the opportunity to showcase all those other things that you can do. So today we're going to talk about a 7-step formula to price more profitably, because that's the key. We're going to look at some great ideas about how you can put it into practice today. Go back and do it. And we'll look at an AVN shortcut to help you with that. But remember, we're not selling, okay? We're not salespeople. This is not who we are. We're not about selling. We're about showing what we can do to help. I think it's natural for most of us to want to help our clients, you know, particularly in this time, to give them support. And we need to make sure that we do that, but actually we're showing them what we can do, but they have to pay for it, okay? So what we do is we show them what we can do to help, and we allow them to choose to buy that help, okay? So it's letting them have that choice to buy, rather than feeling like we're forcing on a fee. And it's really important to have that discussion. So I'm going to talk about 2 key things. And I think most people, when they're buying stuff, they need 2 things. They need to think about choice, and they need to have the confidence that they've bought the right thing. Now, choice is a really interesting thing, because obviously people need to feel that they've been able to make a choice, a decision. If you've only got one choice to make, there's that feeling that, oh, maybe things could have been better. And, you know, when I was younger, at school, I had a very weird shaped feet, which meant that in the end, when I went to the shoe shop, all I could end up having was pretty much boys' lace-ups, which for a girl in senior school is not the best, to be quite honest, but I didn't have any choice. I just had to buy those shoes. And, you know, I didn't have any value to it at all, because they were just, got to have them. And so choice gives you that value perception from the very beginning, because you're choosing what you value more. But the important thing is that people have to have the confidence that they've made the right decision, because otherwise they go back and they have that sinking feeling, and then it feels awful. So what we need to do is, when we're talking about our services and showing them that we can do, we need to give them choice. And we need to just show them that they can have confidence in us, because people are not price sensitive. They're value sensitive. And no matter what people say, we buy with our hearts, not our heads. In the end, that's where we go. We may sit there as accountants and work out all the pros and cons and all the financial implications, but in the end, you'll buy the car that feels great when you're driving it, not the one that actually was the most logical one. And that's just natural, okay? So the 7 steps we're going to talk about today, okay? So step 1 is about formulating a price discrimination strategy. So what do I mean about that? Well, actually what I really mean is you've got to give people choices, because different people value things differently, okay? And if that's the case, then a single price is the wrong price, isn't it? Okay. So, you know, if you're going shopping for a pair of shoes, what you may pay for a pair of shoes may be very different from what I would pay for a pair of shoes, because of the value that is inherent in it. inherent in it. So it's important to think about that. So you need to have a pricing strategy that allows for the fact that people value things differently. Okay, so you need to think about, you know, reflecting the value that we're giving and making sure that that's brought into it. Okay, and so we need to just remind ourselves that the greater the value that we're giving, that should mean that we get a greater reward. So we need to think about that, you know, that the price is about the value, not the time we're spending, but actually what is getting there. And therefore we should get paid accordingly. So really think about that. And you have to remember as well, there are different clients that may need different services from you, may value you differently. So if you've got a client where actually the work you're doing is actually going to get them a tax rebate, a refund, then they are going to value your work very quickly because they want that money back. Okay. If you've got a client that actually doesn't look at their accounts because they don't get them for 9 months and they're a waste of space as far as they're concerned, they're not going to value the work that you deliver, the accounts. So we need to think about what other services we can give around there, but most importantly, think of a way of charging different clients different prices because of what they value from them. And you hear a lot at the moment about people talking about niche markets and whatever, and that's because that allows people to charge differently because you're seen to be a specialist in that area. So for you, think about, is there a way that you can charge different clients different prices? Because thinking about that fact that different clients value things differently. Step 2 is about adding more value. Okay, so we need to figure out how we can add more value, you know. And when we think about value, usually we think of it in this formula, that value equals benefit minus cost. Okay, but the reality of it is that those benefits can come in different ways. You can have tangible benefits, those we can touch and feel. So that could be your set of accounts, that could be your tax returns, that could be your cash flow forecast. But there are intangible benefits, and often they're the ones that affect the value perception more. Intangible benefits are things like feeling that you're cared about, you know, doing little things for you. So some of those little bits about the value could be the fact that, you know, you remember when their client's birthday is, or you remember what they drink when they come in the office, or you just keep in touch with them and they feel that you're caring. When they come into the office, everybody knows their name, says hello, smiles. There's lots of little things, because in reality, value is based on perceived benefit, less perceived cost. So their value equation is not just about the tangible stuff. It's actually more about intangible stuff. If you have bad service in a place, then that will affect the value that you see there. So if I've been to a restaurant, I might have had a great meal, but if the waiter has not treated me properly, the value that I feel about that meal is massively diminished. So it's a combination. So you need to think how you can add more value, okay? And that can be in so many different ways. It can be in services and things you can do to help clients. It can be adding value just by the way that you're connecting. So a lot of you recently have been adding a lot more value by communicating regularly with all your clients, keeping them up to date with what's been going on, checking in, sending them little videos, doing those things. They are massive value added things to do, because that makes sure that that connection is there. So step 3 is how we communicate the value, okay? Because it's all right us saying, oh yeah, we can do all these things, but if you don't actually communicate how you do it, then what's the point, okay? So part of that is about educating your client. It's about being able to say to them, you know, this is what we do. And more important than that, to make the value obvious, okay? Being clear about what it is that you're delivering. And that's when we need to start thinking, when we talk about the services, that we talk about the value we're giving them. Not just I am producing a cash flow forecast, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you some really informed information for you to make decisions about the future of your business. Okay, so we need to think about that. We need to think about how we can educate the client, but also educating about how we work together, you know, how we should behave together, because that's a value thing as well. And that goes 2 ways. And often that's something I don't see, is that a client will shout and demand and whatever. but there is no two-way relationship here. They don't stick to the rules about bringing in the books and records at the right time. You have to chase and chase and chase. Or, you know, they don't follow advice that you give them, and then they're frustrated with you. So we need to have some education there where we talk about how we help, but what our relationship is about. We could educate them on how to interpret the accounts, because so many of them don't value our core product. What if we could think about, you know, explaining to them, maybe having a better turnaround time for accounts, but also actually being able to sit down and explain what some of these numbers mean, what it actually will do, and help them make decisions about the future. Explain to them what the balance sheet means, how that's going to help them think about what they're doing. So sometimes it's that, giving them clear descriptions of what's going on, what we're doing, and in particular, not using accountancy speak, okay? Because we're really good at that. You know, we have lots of little shortcuts, GRF, you know, ROI, what's the other one? Oh yeah, CGT, all these little acronyms we have all over the place, and we talk, and we don't always speak in plain English. So maybe thinking about how we can explain the benefits, and in particular, what's in it for them. So every time you need to be thinking about communicating the value, you need to say, what's in it for them? What will they gain, okay? And there's some really important things to think about that, you know, how does it do? And the other thing is, be prepared for a discussion on price, okay? If nobody questions your price, what does that mean? Yeah, it means that actually your price is too low. You must be the cheapest out there. And if that's not profitable for you, well, that's not a viable business model, is it? So you need to be prepared for a discussion on price. You need to have thought about that and wondering what sort of objections you might get and how you will handle them, how you will explain the value more clearly. Because often when people think about price or ask about price, they're not saying, oh, that price is too expensive. What they're saying is, I don't understand the value of what you're giving me. Because if the value perception was higher, the price wouldn't come into it. If you do get complaints, you need to value them, you know, because actually that's a learning experience for us. And you need to think about emotion when you talk about it. Again, this is really hard to think about, but when you talk about it, you need to think about how it's going to help them, okay? Is it going to sort of give them some emotional connection to the business? Is it going to help them? How's it going to make them feel? Okay, so value is not just about a product, it's about the emotional experience that a client has. So like I said earlier, how they feel when they come and visit you, but also how they feel when you talk to them about the services you're delivering. So the action here is, can you explain the benefits and values of your services better? So not just saying I'm doing your payroll, but actually what I'm going to do is make sure that all your team get paid on time, they get paid the right amount, and everything's dealt with as far as RTI, as far as pensions, as far as everything else, so that you don't have to worry about this. And you can go on holiday because you don't have to think, oh my goodness, I've got to be back to run the payroll, because we will do it for you. So there's things that we can talk about there. So it's really important that when you are trying to help them and you're allowing them to choose that, to buy that help, you make them understand the value of your services. And there's a little bit of a sort of a process you can do this with. So for example, the first thing you can do is identify the problem they need you to solve. Okay, so what is it that's frustrating them? What is it that's the challenge at the moment? Is that, oh, do you know what, I've got my cash flow is terrible. I'm worried that I can't pay the wages every Friday. I don't know what to do with myself. Okay. So you're identifying, well, what does that mean? Well, that means that I can't sleep. I'm getting stressed. My blood pressure's going up. I'm worried about losing my team because, you know, if I can't pay them, it obviously also means that I can't go away because I've got payroll to do. So having looked at that, you can then say, well, how much does this actually cost you as far as sort of time and effort and stress? So they may say, well, yeah, I'm probably spending about 4 hours a week on it. We've not had a holiday for the past 3 years because of that. And obviously my family are not very impressed about that. And, you know, that's quite, you know, it's really causing me quite a bit of stress. And then you say to them, well, do you know what, how much more payment is this going to cost you if you don't take action? So if you continue to do this, what's going to happen? Well, I'm never going to get that holiday, am I? My wife and kids will have to go off on their own and leave me behind, you know. And with this cash flow issue, it's a bit of a problem as well. So, you know, keeping me awake might be an issue. Maybe if I don't get this cash collected so that I can pay the wages, I don't know, I'll have to take out more debt, and that's really stressful. Okay. So how does that feel? Which is what I'm just talking about. It's stressful, it's exhausting, I'm worrying about it all the time. And then for you to actually then demonstrate understanding. So I think we have a problem here. The problem seems to me that actually it's cash flow that's an issue. Maybe we need to look at some ideas. It seems to me that this cash flow issue is causing you a lot of stress. Okay, if you're worried about paying the wages and you're worried about, you know, getting work done, then that's not a good state to be in. And if you've not got time for your family, that's really hard. So let's work together. That's working in a partnership. How would that feel if I helped you with this? If I could come up with ways of helping you with your cash flow so that you always knew you had enough money to pay the wages on a Friday? How would that feel? Okay. And we've not even talked about a solution here. Okay. So actually I could come up with some ideas to help you with that. And your investment would be, so this is about how much it would cost to do. So, you know, you've worked out a process for this. And the important thing is to reassure with a guarantee. So you might say, well, do you know what? And what I'll do is I'll guarantee that, you know, when we put these things in place, and if you follow the actions that I tell you to do, that you will always have enough cash in place. That's obviously if you do your invoicing and everything else, but we will put in a process that will help you manage that, I guarantee. So you've got other things you can talk about. So it's just a process by which you can talk about. But again, having that communication, explaining to it, being part of the problem, in other words, saying I'm part of your team now, I can help solution. That's the intangible benefit. That's the bit that says, oh good, I've got somebody I can trust, somebody I can talk to, somebody I can help, who can help me. So that's the key, okay? Step 4 is about communicating payment terms. It's all right offering solutions, but you need to get paid. And we're not so great at this, okay? So we need to get that sorted right at the very beginning of our relationship with a client or a prospect. This is how we get paid, okay? And it's really interesting because you can build it in 2 ways. What's in it for them, but what's in it for you? So for example, if you say my payment terms are, actually what I actually do is, because I'm concerned about people and I know they've got issues with cash flow at the moment, what I do is I allow my clients to pay over 6 months, over 10 months, whatever you choose, okay? And that means that they can budget for that and it's in their cash flow. Well, that's what's in it for them, isn't it? They've got budget. But for you, that's also great because you can start doing your cash flow too. Okay, so communicate those, thinking about those 2 things. How can we help the client, but also make sure we get paid? So the action for step 4 is we need to clearly communicate our payment terms. And what different payment methods do we accept? Does everybody in your team understand that you perhaps accept Stripe or you accept PayPal or you can take a credit card? You know, what are the options here to help people pay? Because we want to help them pay us, whatever it takes. You know, let's help them because that's the way we're working. Okay. So step 5 is about formulating the price by linking it to value. Okay. And this comes back to almost some of those intangible things that we talked about earlier, because for most people, when they're thinking about value, they're thinking about, can it save them time? Okay. Can it save or earn them money? Can it make them feel better? Okay. So every time we buy something, we are making these subconscious decisions. Okay. Most gadgets we buy, we're thinking, can they save them time? They'll make us feel better because they're great fun to use. Okay. When people are buying our services, often we are saving them time. Often we are saving them money. They'd be charging for us, you know, we're charging, for our time, but that compared to how much their time is worth in their own business to do other things, it could be saving them lots of money. And it should make them feel better because we're reducing the stress or worry. There could be any combination of that. So thinking about how you do that, and remember, you need to make sure that the price is sufficient to make sure that you are having enough time to be able to deliver these intangible benefits too. You know, so building into the pricing, the stuff that allows you to have time, not just to focus purely on doing the work, but being able to have those touch points with your clients and communicate it. Okay. Value pricing. So, you know, again, there are ways of pricing different services differently because some have more value. So, for example, you could choose that they pay a premium to talk to a partner rather than their client manager. You know, it could be that they pay a premium for a rushed job. And how many times have we had a client that said, I need this for, you know, a loan, or I need this for something or other. And we've dropped everything that we're doing and stopped and done that job, and then just charge what we've always done without any discussion with that client that actually we've had to drop other clients. We've had to stop doing our work. Maybe our team have had to work overtime to do this. We need to have that, you know, it's a reasonable discussion to have. So link our services to value. So everything that we do, can we think of, does it save them time? Does it save or earn them money? Does it make them feel better? And is there a way of adding a value pricing element into what we deliver? And then there are some tools, there's some things that actually we could plan for that they start charging us, because we have a planner's work. It's happened recently, you know, while people have been in lockdown, okay, I've noticed a lot of you have been suddenly receiving the accounts for a huge number of clients who have been sat there twiddling their thumbs during lockdown and not done anything and thought, yes, year end March, let's just drop everything off at the accountants. And then you're overwhelmed because you're thinking, oh my goodness, I've now got all these jobs that have to be done. In reality, those jobs may have not come in for another 6 months normally. So your work plan doesn't include doing them now. It would have included them 6 months' time. So this is a good time to go back to those clients and say, do you know what? Normally you bring this stuff in November, okay? So thinking about that, I usually plan to do it in November. So that's when, you know, that's my normal plan. If you want me to do it sooner, then actually it's classed as a rush job. And there will be a premium for that, because there will be other people who I normally work on at this time of the year and help them now that I will have to put aside for you. So there's lots of opportunity to talk about value at the moment. Step six is about reducing the perception of price, okay? So yeah, often if we go to a fee and we say, oh, that's 8,500 to do all this extra work because you're doing business consulting or whatever else, that seems a huge amount of money, okay? But we can reduce that, we can reframe it, we can talk about how it's useful, what it's important, what's it going to deliver. Is it going to deliver more value than the £8,000 by doing the work you're going to do? As I said, perceived value equals perceived benefits over perceived price. So you've got to think about that. How can we manage that? So what we could do is we could reframe it by chunking it down. So, you know, what seems smaller? You know, £1,008 or £84 by 12 months. When they're thinking about paying for it now, and they've got to pay you over £1,000, or actually what you're saying is it's £84 a month. Think about how we can plan that. There is a lot of research done that says that people actually see a number ending in a 9 or a 7 as a smaller number. So to say that something is £97 instead of 100, there's a much higher chance that they'll buy at 97 than if you put it as 100. It's the same with the 7. And so again, think about that. Is that something you could build in? You know, could you look at the way things work? Think about the language you use, okay? It's an investment. They're paying for an investment in your time and your knowledge and your skills. You need to keep remembering this. They don't have this knowledge and skills. They haven't spent all these years training, doing CPD, all the rest of it. They don't have this. They come to you because of your knowledge, just like they would go to a solicitor for their knowledge. It is specialist. Okay, and no matter what the software companies are telling them, that a push of a button, their accounts can suddenly appear and their tax returns can suddenly appear, we all know that that's not the truth. The reality of it is often that we have to do an awful lot of work to fix some of this stuff before it's ready to be in accounts. So just think about the language. So, you know, a £5 fee or a small £5 fee, it's a tiny change in the way that we think and the way we word things and reframe things, okay? And again, some of these might seem silly, you know, why would I say that? But it's because there has been research done. Let's learn from it. You know, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Which looks bigger? Okay, the first one, the middle one, or the last one? Now, isn't it interesting by putting the 0.00, how that looks? by putting the comma in after the thousands, how that looks. Again, it's how your brain perceives things. So use the learning. So thinking about that, you need to think about how can we help reduce the perception of price? What can you do now for the things that you're doing? My last step is about being human, okay, step 7. And this is about the language you use, you know, talking to people as a human, as a business owner to another business owner, thinking about the language, thinking about what we're doing, making sure that we give them that confidence by saying, you know, we're doing a fixed price. There's no surprise fees. That, you know, that we look at that we think about giving people guarantees so that they feel more confident that they've made the right choice, which is what I said right at the very beginning. If you can guarantee it, and they say, well, actually, you know what, you're willing to guarantee this? Fantastic. Now, you know, what I would say to people is when you're doing business growth work with them, you're not guaranteeing that their profits will change because they have to move the work. You're guaranteeing that you will be giving them the ideas and the tools and resources to be able to go to that profit change, but ultimately it's their business and they have to put in the work. But you can guarantee the service that you're going to deliver. And again, thinking about with guarantees, think about what you're guaranteeing. So if somebody's paying £84 a month, you may only guarantee 1 month at a time. But the fact that you're guaranteeing it makes people feel more confident in you. So just think about that. And you could guarantee turnaround times. You could guarantee all sorts of other things, the support that you're going to give them, whatever. But it's also, you know, something that gives people confidence. And then giving them empathy. You know, understanding, being on their side, making them feel that you're part of their team, part of their business, part of the solution, not just that they're paying for a job to be done, but actually they're investing in somebody who is going to have a key interest in the future of their business, and showing a lot of empathy and understanding. And that's really, really important because that shows that you care. And that's where people stay with you. Often that loyalty factor is because people have a relationship with you. They feel that you understand and care. And that relationship shouldn't just be with you as a partner. It should be with your team members as well. It should be the fact that the whole business makes them feel welcome. So the thing is to think about, practice the language we use in different scenarios. Think about, you know, when we're talking to people about fees, you know, can we use that no surprise billing, fixed fees, it's a small investment, those sorts of things. Can we guarantee our work? How can we do that in a great way? How can we make sure that our clients feel cared for? Okay. So please think about practicing the language and think about maybe if you could agree a guarantee policy, because I think that's the strongest way of connecting. So the 7-step formula, first of all, formulate a price discrimination strategy. Figure out how we can add more value, communicate that value so that people understand, communicate the payment terms so you get paid, formulate the price by linking it to value. So not about time, but about value. I know that's a difficult challenge for some people because you say, oh, well, it only took me 5 minutes to answer that question. But it's because you've got all this knowledge that takes 5 minutes. And one of the areas I would suggest you think about, work that you do give away for free, is all those times when you get a phone call and somebody says, can I just ask you advice? And before you know it, you've given away a gem, something really valuable to that client, and then you don't charge for it. And that's really, you know, so thinking about that, importance of that. Reduce the perception of price. So, you know, you can make sure it feels smaller, it feels manageable, it feels something that they could afford, and be human, make connections with them. So I'm going to stop my share now because I think we're going to invite Christopher to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll invite Christopher on. Just one little aside, by the way, that I you know, it triggered a thought as Emma was going through the ways to add value. I've spoken to a few accountants recently who said, you know, one of the ways that we're adding value is that we tell our clients that they have unlimited calls. And sometimes a consequence of that is that they feel then that any question that's asked, they have to answer, they have to provide that value. That might include business advice, might include a multitude of areas that ordinarily maybe they could charge for. So just be very mindful of that, and by all means offer the unlimited calls, but also stipulate in there that obviously if any calls require further investigation or further work to be carried out, then obviously part of that conversation will be that we will give you a fixed price for carrying that work out. So you're not just allowing for yours, to be ultimately abused and taken for granted by just answering any query that they have. And always be ready just to say, that's a fantastic question. That's something that requires a little bit more investigation. Let me give you a quote for that. Okay. So I wanted to invite Chris on because Chris has been having some great results, certainly in the pricing area amongst other areas of his business. So actually, if you don't mind, Chris, just unmute yourself and then I shall invite you just really tell your story. Just start by introducing yourself, Chris, a little bit about your practice, and then well, I'll leave that to you.
Great. Yeah. So I'm Christopher Darby. I founded my accountancy practice about 10 years ago. To start with, I was with a franchise. This was end of 2009. So we were still in a recession then. And a lot of people were looking for work. So I sort of got into that. Basically the way I did things was the old-fashioned way. So I would ask for the set of accounts. Quite often it was being done through telemarketing, which I hated. And you go there. The only way you get the work was by undercutting and say, your accountant is charging you X, I'll do it for 50% less or 20% less or whatever. It's not a good way to do things. It did get results. It got me a basic sort of income, but it wasn't really ideal. So I took a decision a few years back to get out of that franchise, which is not easy. So if you're in a franchise or thinking about doing one, think very carefully, is all I would say about it. There was a complicated pricing model, and what that meant was that you would go to see them, then you'd have to go back and see them with the price, which is hopeless. So I sort of started quoting off the hoof, which again, it can say increase the fee income, but didn't get across, what the value was. I'd say to them, you need to do a VAT return, tax return, etc. Sort of the basic products, as I call them, and then quote a price. And if they looked uncomfortable, okay, well, I'll do it for 10% less. This is where a lot of accountants work, and I would absolutely say to you, don't do that. If you are doing that currently, don't do it. The pain of it was, I sat there, I remember sitting there one afternoon, having done X payrolls and whatever, and thinking, hang on, I took 3 years to become a chartered accountant. This should be giving me more cash. I'm not putting it into my pension. I've not, I wasn't quite in the thing of having to look at my bank balance before I went to the supermarket, which I know some people have been in that, but it was a little bit like that. And I was stuck in a franchise where if you ever wanted to do anything, you'd have to get their permission. And basically, if you did go to them and say, I want to do X, then they would say, great idea, and they would send it, but they would then effectively nationalize it into the franchise and charge you for it. So I decided I don't want to be doing that. It's sort of back to 2015. So I was looking at various things. I looked at my firm's app, and again, all these people told me you'll get fabulous results. And when I said, well, will you stand behind them? So if it doesn't work, will you refund me? Oh, well, no, because you have to do X, Y, Z. And I came across a guy called Steve Pipe, who was just great, because he really challenged. He did a session and he challenged me, and actually made me feel extremely uncomfortable. Because the first thing he said was, you've got to increase your prices. You go, if I increase my prices, I'll lose clients. And as a result of listening to that, I went on the masterclass and then joined AVN at that point. Unfortunately, I was initially unwell at that point with some family issues and so on, and I didn't sort of get to implement it. But I persevered with it. And so the main thing I'm talking about is the Time's Up piece of software that you get when you join AVN. And this is really, really useful because it gives you confidence to talk about price and choice in a sales meeting with a prospective client. Now, the way I use it, one of the things as well I learned from Steve Pipe is to ask them about 5 or 6 things and say, where are you now on these issues? And then where would you like to be? And where would you really like to be? So now with all new clients, I sit down and run through this. If the client shows absolutely no interest in this, they're probably not the sort of client you want, unless you want a lot of people paying 300 quid for a tax return once a year. To get money out of that, you're going to have to do your 100 just to get 30K. and then you have to pay other costs. So they might be okay to start with, but they're not your ideal sort of clients. So you can tell instantly by showing them that, and instantly you get them to sit up. You get the client to sit up and say, "Oh, that is interesting," and you can then tell, one, if they're interested, and two, if they're interested in your service. And I can pretty much guarantee you that you will be, if they're looking at a number of accountants, as they do, because they don't know who's a good accountant, who's not, that will be a thing that will be in your favour. And several clients have said that to me since I've been doing that. Yeah, you showed an interest in my business, which nobody else did. So then after that, price is less of an issue. You've already demonstrated some value just by doing 6 simple questions. So then once you've got them on that, you say, okay, well, this is what we're going to work to, and I'll show you. Then you say, and I will show you. You're not selling. I'll show you some of the tools that we have got. And now, particularly during this sort of COVID-19 period, it is sort of, you can give them a try and see rather than a money back guarantee. So, well, look, I understand things are difficult, so we are helping. And you can give them what's called board view meetings, kind of strategy session for them. So what you then find out by asking them 6 questions, and basically you ask them, what's the turnover, what's their profit, what money are they taking out of the business? That's critical, because if they haven't got any profit, they won't be able to take anything out. How many hours are you working? And then say, what would you like to be? And how many days holiday, and how many uninterrupted holidays? So the things that you sort of get asked, that you ask when you join AVM, you're asking your clients as well. And these are human issues. And then say, is there anything else that you want to put on here that we can come back to, that where you want to get to from where you are now? So that instantly opens up a really interesting conversation. You've got their attention. It's not just, you need to do this, that, and the other, and here's the price, which again is not particularly valuable for them. It's just the kind of the keep out of jail services, which are coming under increasing fee pressure. So the great thing about the Time's Up software is, one, I just say, start using it. Even if, and don't worry if you're not doing all the 7 things that are in there to start with. Start on it and practice with it, and then have a software session with Emma or Jenny from AVM and get to know it, so that you can add in other services. It's nice and flexible, and if there are certain things you think, oh gosh, I know that client is too small, but I want them to grow, you can then reduce that price and tell them, okay, for your first 12 months, given we're in a recession, we will do it for X, but then it will be going up. So you prepared them that you are helping them out. So Time's Up, what's great about it, it gives them the choices. So there's a 3, 4, and 5 star, and they can choose whichever one they want. Now, what I've found is that it's best to do it in person, but at the moment you can't. So I've been doing a lot of these over Zoom, and actually I found early on that it was more tricky than normal to be showing them the kind of the full Time's Up screen. So what I did was I said, well, look, I'll run you through what the available services are, and then, because I know we've only got a small screen, it's difficult to go through everything. But what I will send you, I will send you 4 proposals. Now, you might think there's only 3 if there's a 3, 4, and 5 star, but you send them 4 proposals. And the way I've been doing it is saying to them, I found recently that a lot of what comes up is people's bookkeeping. Oh, bookkeeping is such a nightmare, and my accountant sort of demands this, and I have to do it on a spreadsheet. And I say, well, get away from those, get onto the cloud. And you can bring them on with a product like QuickFile, which is a nice entry level. It's got no app, it's got no, but when it gets to a certain size, you're going to be paying no more than £2 or £3 a month, as opposed to £30 for Xero or QuickBooks. So I've been bringing those on there and saying, well, okay, what I'll do is I'll give you a training session, you can have a training session with me, and it's X £100, and we'll have 2 hours to go for it, and we'll run through everything. I'll show you how to use it. And if you need 5 or 10 minutes on that, I won't charge you, which is a great way of saying, again, giving them something that you're showing that it's valuable, and therefore you're pricing it, and then you run through that. And I found that that's really helped them to get on top of where they are and take a big stress thing away. Cash flow certainly is an issue there, but it will, I think, continue to be for the foreseeable future. And by doing that, you've identified what they really want. So in your Time's Up, there's a nice section in there that says you can add extra things. So I'm now putting bookkeeping in there and how to get off a horrible spreadsheet onto something that's backed up, that's reliable, that does everything for them, and is actually pleasant to use rather than some of the ways that people work. And remember, the great thing is, the reason I say I go back to doing the 4 is I show them on one of them, and I usually use the 3-star because people are very, very tight for money and just can't afford necessarily to go on the 4 or 5-star yet. I then say, well, if you get your books and records into a really good state, this is how much you could save. And one of the things I remember when I was with the franchise was, I remember other accountants complaining that the client would say, well, if I make it slightly easier, can you cut the price? Now, they're already on too low a price anyway, so their tendency was say no. So it still came in a shabby form. But get them onto a proper accounting system, and you can give them the year-end checklist. You can run through that with them, and preparing the accounts then is a relative doddle. And you can spend more time looking at, are there tax savings that you can make, and then introduce those other services as you go along. So my sort of recommendation is that without the, quickly on a couple of examples, tangible examples recently, on my overall client sort of fee structure, even with people just buying the fairly basic 3-star package at the moment, I'm quoting twice what I was before. So for the new clients, I pretty much doubled the price. And I also used it on an existing client who'd been a bit naughty about paying, and that was really my fault for not having enforced it at the start and allowing a bit of COVID-19 excuses. So I turned around one day and said, look, I said, you're not getting this stuff I explained all the things back to him, and I said, you haven't paid for it, I'm not doing any more work until. Anyway, it was about to get a bit tough. But then when he did pay up, and then I said, well, look, you've breached the agreement. And I said, and by the way, what you told me 6 months ago, we said we'd review it, and I virtually doubled the price. And I did get initially, oh, can you cut the price? And I said, well, let me explain to you how that price is made up. So I took him through all the things that were in Time's Up and said, you're getting this, you're getting that. And I said, you also have quite a bespoke service because you get assistance from the DWP because of a disability. You need this due by the 10th of the month, you need that due by the 20th, you need this, and you need that. So there's a lot of stuff there. I said, plus, you send me the info, you don't spend everything through the main business bank account. You do a lot of stuff to your personal bank account, and then send me a text file, which I have to convert into a spreadsheet to get into the accounting system. I said, if you could eliminate that, I said, then we could actually take something off. So again, you're giving them the consequences of the way they are, and you're showing them with the software how they can influence it. So they feel in charge. And once you've done that, the price becomes less important because you're showing them again the absolute value of what you're doing. I also put in there as a guarantee if it's late and it's my fault, and that is written in both the proposal and it's written into the engagement letter and explains it. And I also say, if you incur a penalty because I'm late and it's my fault, then I will pay that penalty and I will give you that month's fee back. Again, that's really it shows that you're standing behind your product, because I've had a number of people say, oh, they were late and I had to pay a fine and the accountant didn't pay it. Now, to me, if it's your fault, you pay it, and you just, and you use that as a learning thing. The other thing with the guarantee is, so far, nobody's ever called on it. And if you're frightened about doing that because you think people will take the Michael out of it, well, if on the 3rd month they do it and it's you think that they are taking the piss, then you can turn around and say, look, we need to have a conversation about how we do things better. And if it happens in the 4th month, then you probably need to remove them as a client, downgrade them to a D client, and exit them to an accountant who's prepared to put up with that sort of thing. So final recommendation is if you're unsure about AVN, go to the masterclass, because that will open your eyes to the sorts of ways that you can work, and how you can significantly increase your enjoyment of your work, which is very important. But most importantly, is have more money in your pocket. It's great, nobody likes having too little money in their pocket. Just to have enough money in your pocket at the end of the month, and then to be thinking about things like, you need to plan for a pension. If you're an AVN practice, by increasing your turnover and your profitability, your practice is going to become more valuable. So you're not going to be in that horrible position of thinking, I can't retire. Because, you know, supposing you have to retire and it's not making you much money, you're not going to have much pleasure there, nor you're going to have much pleasure along the way. And my view is that most accountants are still undercharging for their services. People are undercutting each other. So find the right clients who are going to value you, go into AVM, look at the ways of doing that, invest in it, and just start using the tools as soon as possible. The worst thing that happens is the client says no. Well, then, you know, you can have a discussion about it. So that's pretty much it.
Well,
Shane,
thank you. Shane, you're muted.
Yeah, Shane, you're muted, Shane.
I'm rattling away, aren't I? So I shall say all that again. First of all, thank you very much, Chris. That was fantastic.
Okay.
Really appreciate the recommendation for AVN as well. But please, everybody in the audience, many of you already are doing. Thank you to Chris. That was really insightful and incredibly valuable, because it's all right us saying it, but actually somebody who's been there going through this process, it's always useful. Thank you for the plug on AVN as well. Always appreciate those. Look, just for you guys listening right now, I'd just like to know, this book is effectively, I suppose, masterclass in a book. We can't run masterclass at the moment, but I highly recommend, you know, people have said to me, this book's changed my life. So I'm going to say it to you now, this book will change your life. But you have to read it. We've sent it out to lots of people. Forgive the condescending tone, but as we've sent this out to lots of people, and I'll say, you know, have you read the book? Well, it's on my bookshelf, it's next to my bed, but no, I haven't read it yet. So look, I thank you very much for the comments in the box as well about the book. I will happily post this out to you for free if you write the word book in the chat box. I will send you a copy out. As long as you commit to reading it, I will happily do that. And I'll also stick your little insert in, which is an extra bonus as well. So I will do that. So just write book in there, and yeah, by all means, I'll send it out for free. Okay, good stuff. Right, well, Emma hasn't actually finished, which is why I didn't extend my thank you to her at the time, although thank you very much for expressing that thanks in the chat box. Emma's going to just run through. Obviously, Chris just talked about Times Up. Times Up is our value pricing tool, and emphasis on the word value. There are other pricing tools out there, but they don't necessarily contain the psychology behind value pricing built into them. So I'd just like to, you know, for Emma just to run through Times Up, let you see how that operates. And you know, there are lots of AVM members on here. By the way, for the benefit of the AVM members listening here, Jenny's doing a clinic on Times Up training on Friday the 3rd. So that's obviously next Friday at 10 a.m. Now, obviously, we'll email out about that, but I just wanted to make that clear to you as well. Loads and loads and loads of requests for the book, so happy to get those posted out. If we don't have your address on file, then we'll email you just asking for the address, so we'll by all means get that out to you. I mean, one of you's put in there, PDF's fine. I'm happy to do that, but I'm more than happy to send out the book. Personally, I like a book. You can scribble in it, you can highlight bits, and it's just, it's easy. But yeah, both if you like. Okay, wonderful stuff. Right, thank you very much, Chris, and back to you then, Emma.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen with Times Up just to show you. So I'm going to challenge you in a way to think about those 7 step formula that I talked about earlier, and just see if you can spot how we've brought these things in. I will bring them in as well and talk about it, but just so you can see how it works. So this is the main screen, and as Chris said, it's designed to be used in front of a client. It's designed to be, like I said earlier, human to human, that we're in this together. So we're going to find a solution together. I'm not going to force you to choose anything. I'm just going to show you what's possible and you choose, okay? So you can open the screen and you can have it blank. Obviously, you don't want to show your whole client list. If I click show, well, I can show my own client list. So I can add clients. I can edit it as simple as that. Okay. So I'm just going to pick somebody, and let's pick. I've already done some for Harry Potter, but let's do it anyway. Okay. So Harry Potter is one of my clients, and I'm going to add a quote. Now, first thing to notice is actually we're talking about 2 different things here. We're going to talk about their business, and we're going to talk about their tax separately. And that's to make sure that we're thinking about explaining very clearly what we deliver as that service, and make sure that they understand the complexity of what we do and the value we bring. So let's first of all look at the business. So this is my quote. If I want, I can put a description on there that I can save so that I've got some idea of what the quote was about, and we can talk about it. In this case, I've got a sole trader. The year end is not come yet because I've gone in out a bit earlier to talk about pricing. I mean, I can change that year end if it's the year end before, okay? And you can put in their SIC code so that you could perhaps link through to our benchmarking toolbook. You know, let's talk about that. The first thing is to talk about the business type. So actually, you know, they are a sole trader, but how do they work? Are they a specific business type? And this is where actually you can create that different price for different customers, okay? So in this case, I've got a business to business, I've got a business to consumer, but I also have here a specialist one for IT consultants. So, and I could put anything in there. I could put dentists, I could put plumbers, I could put nursing homes, I could put whatever else. And we can build a pricing structure around that particular business type. And that allows us to, A, build in a price that makes sure we're profitable on those jobs. You know, because of those, some of those things involve us doing a lot of extra work. And also for us to be able to show our clients that we have specialist knowledge, or to be seen to have specialist knowledge in that particular market. So, you know, for example, if you could then have special wording that appears in the fixed price agreement at the end that explains in their language, you know, that you understand their particular industry, their business. So you can build as many as you like. So that allows us to build a pricing. In this case, I'm just going to do business to consumer. Okay. Because it's not, it's a sole trader, of course, there's no audit. But if there was an audit as part of this, if it was a limited company with audit, then it would allow me to talk about risk. So again, we could talk about when we're doing the audits, what's the level of risk and what does risk mean? Do they understand that? Could they be doing something next year that would reduce their level of risk and the amount of work we have to do because of that? So for those of you that are auditing, it's quite a useful thing. The next thing we talk about is actually the quality of the books and records, and this is the accounting system. So currently our default is manual or computerized, okay? And it's amazing how many, even with MTD, still are on manual records. I'm quite surprised, but there are. And you can show people the price if you want on manual and then compare it to computerized so they can see actually there is a benefit for being on computerized. But I'm going to say is computerized. And if I asked my client or this prospect how good their computer records are going to be, they're going to tell me that they're excellent, whatever. Now what this does is a little icon appears that allows me to actually come up with a definition. So I'm hoping you can see this Word document. I need someone to just tell me that Word is opening. Can somebody tell me that you can see it, that a Word document's just opened?
Yeah, that's visible, yeah.
Fantastic, okay. So what happens here is this allows us to show what we define as excellent books and records. So in this case, like I said, it's customizable, so you can put your logo in. You can change these headings if you want, you can do whatever else. But in our case, with this client, I'm saying, okay, excellent records mean that you have posted all your cash and bank transactions, all your sales and purchases, that you've reconciled your cash and bank, you've reconciled your sales and purchases, you've got everything filed so that I can go and have a look at it, all your VAT control has been done and reconciled, your wages have been done and reconciled, you've looked at your loans, HP agreements, and you've accounted for that, you've looked at your fixed assets, and you've recorded them properly, and if you've got any intercompany stuff, which in this case you're not, because you're sole trader, you would have dealt with that. So what happens is they go, okay. So you can say, well, perhaps you're not excellent. Perhaps you could tell me where on this bridge you think you are. And it may be, they might be average. And here you can also explain that we like to reward people who do more work, just like Chris was saying earlier. So you can see that if the records are poor, it actually means we have to do an awful lot of work. So there is an additional fee on top of our basic standard fee that is built into the process for us to be able to do all that extra work. The more work you do, there is a reduction in the fee, so you can see that. So we're now going to say that having looked about this, we think you're about average. And that's great, because what we're going to say is when you bring your books and records in, the first thing I'm going to do is check that you've posted all your cash in your bank, you've posted all your sales and purchases, and that you've reconciled the bank and cash. Okay? And I won't start work until we know that's right. And then if it's not right, then what I'll do is I'll call you. And you can come and fix it, or we can agree a fee for us to do that extra work. So already we're talking about the value of delivering, and we're showing all the different things we can do. Okay, so having discussed that, now I can go back and say, okay, yes, it is computerized, but we've agreed it's average. So the client is already thinking about the amount of work we do, which we've never shown them, and we've never discussed it. We're now going to talk about the turnover range. So for this business, at their year end, what are they expecting their turnover to be? So I'm going to put in a fee, okay? Now, the important thing now is to start giving people choice, okay, about different things. And we want to say to people that really, in this environment, we really want to help businesses not only just survive, but grow, thrive. And so we have our 5-star business growth service. And we always start by talking about that because you need to know that this is available to you, okay? So I'm just going to show you what that is. Now, what happens is in our system, you can see that a price appears at the bottom. It's there. All the different things that are included are shown on the right-hand side. We're going to explain some of those in a minute, okay? And you can see that I've chunked the price down into 10 months. So they can see that it's, you know, it's an investment that's £388.40 a month. Now this document here, which I'm not going to pull up, but explains exactly the benefits of all these things, okay? So they can see how we're going to help them. So in this case, we're going to benchmark them, see what the competitors do, see if we can emulate that. We're going to have a meeting to help them through the hard times, think about what can we do in their business to make sure that they come out of the other side of this issue, you know, this recession, and they've got a really strong business. We're going to look at some key improvement possibilities, things that we can do to help them improve the business. We'll make sure that we've done everything we can as far as tax planning to help them in their business. So all of that is in our 5-star service. Now, as Chris was saying, the beauty about this is you show them this stuff, and they just think that price isn't right. You know, if they can't see that value equation, if they can't see if you haven't been able to explain this stuff or the document's not right, then you can just change it and say, do you know what, maybe you're not ready for that business growth at the moment. So what you need is our middle level. Again, you can change the names of these. So if you don't like them, that's fine. You know, bronze, silver, gold, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But you can also see that as I changed from 5 to 4, it automatically unticked the 2 things they're not going to get anymore, and it changed the price. So they're seeing the value of the extra things that I've put in when I was in 5-star. They're also making a conscious value decision. They've got choice, they can pick, but they are seeing what's a part of that. And again, there's a document that explains that. Or they could go down to our 3-star service. And you can see we've dropped right down now to £198 a month, okay? And for that, we've got some things that we do to help you make sure you're minimising the tax, because we want to make sure it's here. We're going to give you some ideas about improving your business, because we still want to do that. And we're also going to give you a report that maybe tells you how you could improve the quality of your records so that the fee comes down next year. So maybe rather than being average, they could be good or very good, and that will affect the price. So you talked about this already. Okay. And then we can go on and talk about all the other services. So we're going to click on the blue arrow here, and that now shows us all the other things we can do. Okay, so for each of these services, so you know, how much time do you spend doing your VAT return? I noticed that that's not ticked off on there, so you haven't, how do you get your VAT returns done? Would you like us to do it? Okay, what we can make sure is that you've got peace of mind that we'll submit on time. You know, you won't get any fines, that we comply with all legislation, that we've declared all the VAT properly and claimed as much as we can, okay? And again, there's a little document that explains all of that, the benefits. If you do want that, how many times a year do you submit your VAT? Okay, 4 times a year, it's quarterly, that's great. And they see that the price has changed and it appears on the list. They start seeing the value of what they're doing, and we're adding more value because we're explaining it, okay? We might want to talk about, because they've not chosen it, they might want specific tax planning. So we can talk about these different things if we want to. It might be that you want to have management accounts. So it's important to, you know, what's going on in your business. If you're happy to use, you know, Xero, QuickBooks, or one of those other things, and we can have some live data, we can produce management accounts for you. Is that something that would be interested? You could be finding out how you're doing, make some conscious decisions about what's going on. Well, if you did, again, if we just did them quarterly when we do your VAT, that's the difference it would make. Now that might be too much. So if we switch that back off again, we can drop down. They are making that decision. They are choosing. At the moment, we might want to be doing a cash flow because we want to plan how we're doing that. Again, over 10 months, you can see the consequences. And we go through all these different things. So this is about looking at your competitors. We do 3 levels of services for benchmarking your business, depending on how much time you want to look at that, the results, how complex you want us to look into that information. We can just do a single 1-page plan, very simple, or we can actually start delving into some of the key numbers and have a sort of a good input. So here we've got a meeting, a 3-hour meeting. We'll discuss the filings. We'll look at a detailed report for you, and we'll improve ways we can improve your profitability and cash flow position. Okay, and we'll create an action plan with you, and they can make that choice. Okay, so these are different things that AVM members can deliver as part of what they're doing. You might create a payroll system. So this is a very basic one, but again, it's something that can evolve. Like Chris was saying, you can add anything you like. So I have helped build quite more complex payroll sections in here, as I have done with bookkeeping as well. So for example, if they have payroll, sole trader, but maybe they've got a payroll, they pay them per hour and they pay them weekly, and on average he's got between 1 and 5 employees, this is the consequence of doing the payroll. Now again, I just switch that off for another, what's that? We've gone to about £80, £90, £85 a month. How much could you do with, how much time do you spend doing your payroll? It's taking you 3 hours a week. That's what, 12 hours a month? What could you do with 12 hours? Surely in 12 hours you could earn more than £85. Or you could have some time with your family, or you could do some other things. Isn't that worthwhile? So you talk about those sorts of things with them. So you build in whatever you want to do, whatever extra sections you want, and you can build up a whole package, and they are choosing things that they want. And that's the whole point, they can choose it, okay? Like Chris says, you can, if you want, choose to discount individual items if you want within the software. So if I go back to, say, the cash flow, okay, I can choose wherever there's a blue arrow, there's an action that I can do. So if I wanted to, I could choose to change that price from £400 to and reduce it by a percentage, okay? That's your decision, and it has to be shown that you're doing that, okay? You need to be very clear. It's not something I would recommend, but I do understand that, some of us want to support people, and there might be certain clients we want to help with things. Again, with the final fee, here's the price. We know how much it is per month, over 10 months. You can change that to 12, 6, 3, whatever you want. That's up to you. Okay, the blue arrow means I can change it here. So again, I can have a discount. So if, as Chris was talking about, you have an existing client and possibly their current fee is maybe £2,000 a year, and now we're talking £4,000, that's a massive jump, double, okay? That you might be happy with that, and I will hope you would be, because the pricing that you put in here, that you edit, because it has numbers in here, so you can see how the software works. But we have a very simple process for customizing that if you want, if you choose to. Then we can talk about that. So hopefully the prices that are coming out you are comfortable with, that are right. But if you've had that client 10 years, and they're a good client, they're a good payer, they perhaps get you some great referrals, then it's possible that you might choose to discount it. Again, you can choose what you do, how much, but the important thing is to tick that box to show it on the proposal. So on the proposal, like Chris says, it shares, this is how much you should have been charged. This year alone, for this year, we are giving you a discount, so that they are aware of what's going on. So we're being really clear about perception. We've formulated the price, linked on the value we're delivering, particularly when I just talked about the payroll stuff. And we're giving them a way of chunking down the money, and for them to make the choice. And if at any point in this they're saying, oh, that still seems a lot of money, you just go, okay, let's go back then. Let's have a look at what you chose. Let's have a look at what you've been delivering, even right at the beginning. If we could change that so that it was good, perhaps you could do some extra work, that would change the fee. And you could show them that if you wanted to, just change the calculation. So you could do that. So it allows you to have that conversation. Just as a quick aside, because I know people will ask me about this no account service one. So that's there because when you're going to see prospects, a lot of work we do with members is about their ideal client, who they want to work with. And often when those sorts of clients, the sort of work you want to do with them is not necessarily accounts and tax returns. It might be more enjoyable work like business growth work, investigation work, or other things that you really love doing that you could be, you could see that your ideal client would want from you. And when you visit them and you do perhaps go and introduce yourself, they may say, well, actually, I'm quite happy with my accountant. I don't need that. And you can actually use this tool and say, that's fine, I don't need the account. You can switch off the accounts, it turns all of that off, and then you can just look at all these option extras, all these sections. So you can say, so you can show them all the other things that you do. Does your client do that? You know, does your existing accountant do this stuff for you? Can I help with that? So again, it gives you an option to get in with prospects that perhaps are saying, well, I don't really want to change accountants. Having done the quote for the accounts, then we want to look at the quote for the tax. So we're going into tax this time. And again, the description needs to be the person's name normally. I mean, this is a sole trader, so it's not necessary, but if it was a partnership, you'd do one for each partner, say, and so you put the name in. And this is all about explaining, again, the work behind a tax return. Most clients do not understand the amount of work we do for tax returns. All they see is that they have to pay us to work out how much money they have to pay the government. And that's not valuable at all, is it? You know, that's something they've got to have. There's no choice in the matter. They don't see any value in it because it's going to cost them more money. So let's start showing them the value of what we're doing, okay? So this is built up on the schedules, obviously, of doing accounts. So first of all, we can talk about, do you have savings accounts? We need to declare those. Yes, we do. So I've got example 2. I've got 2 savings accounts, you might say. Well, that's great. What I can do as well, just for our benefit, for when we do the work, is in the pop-up, I can actually type in some words. We can do this in any of the words that are written down, any of the descriptions. I can say that the savings accounts are with, oh, sorry, knocked my mouse as I was doing that, are with Nationwide, I don't know, and Halifax, okay? Then when the books and records come in, you know you're looking for savings records on those 2 accounts. Okay, once you've saved that, that's already there. It's there and it will appear in the proposal. You can talk to them again about investment income. Do they have any income there that we need to look at? Are they investing in anything? We've got to talk about shareholdings. What shareholdings do they have? And also talk again about the fact that they need to be providing documentation for shares. I don't know about you, but when I was in practice, you know, often somebody would tell me they had shares in the company, there would be no dividend counterfoils anywhere to be seen. And then I would spend an hour going through the internet, scrolling through the internet to work out how much dividend they would have received and also what the tax liability was on it and whether it was foreign or not and all the rest of it. And I would create a whole schedule based around some shareholdings that they had without having any evidence from them at all. And they have no idea that I'm doing that. I've just spent an hour of chargeable time in order for completeness on their tax return to ensure that their tax return is complete, and yet they don't know we've done that. So again, opportunity to have a conversation here, okay? So as part of this, in the pop-up here, you know, we'll review all the documentation you provide, okay? We will ensure that required dividends received and tax suffered during the tax year figures appear in the appropriate box in the tax returns. But you might actually say to them, do you know what? I need you to give me all the counterfoils. So you need to start saving those. Or you might say, do you know what? I need you to email me that when it comes through. Or if you want me to look it up, then obviously there's an option for me to do that. And perhaps that's an extra fee. We could talk about obviously gift aid, things they're doing, and various other things. So here obviously we've got is sole trader, so there's self-employment income, not the rest. We could talk about other things, you know, again, this is be about talking English. You know, we say so, transactions subject to CGT. What on earth is CGT for most people? They have no idea. Okay, so looking about the disposal of assets during the year, looking to ensure that actually we've declared everything possible. And so we work down here, and then just as before, we have 3 levels of service. So we have our top 5-star service, which is your complete peace of mind. Now, as you can see, that's quite a phenomenal amount for a tax return to £2,000, which doesn't have a huge amount in it. But if I just scroll down here and I press my blue arrow, you can see that as part of this service, what we're including is free advice and consultations for the immediate family. Well, that's great, isn't it? That gives us an opportunity to talk to them about other things. Okay, we're going to do some health checks on their business, but also we're going to look at inheritance tax planning. a health check and an estimate. And that's part of, again, thinking about, are we going to look after the people below us and the people and the money coming down to us? So making sure we've got a clear financial strategy going on here. We'll keep them up to date with the tax stuff that's going on. We'll do a personal balance sheet. Now, a personal balance sheet is a full list of your assets and liabilities and your net worth. So what that does is that allows us to monitor the growth of your wealth and help you set targets to improve your business and business to growth and improve the growth of your wealth. And that's really valuable. Not only that, but should, for heaven, say something happened to you, your significant other has a statement of that ready for everything else that's going to go through with probate and everything else. So it's good here. Then we'll do some other stuff in here. So, we'll make sure that if anything should happen, if there's ever a tax investigation, you don't have to pay us for any of the work that needs to be done on that. So this is complete peace of mind. Now, of course, for some people, that value equation still doesn't work. So you can say, okay, well, let's go to our standard service. You can see that now the drop as fee is quite significant. It's £950. Back onto our little blue arrow, you can see we are still including advice for your family and doing some health check and keeping you informed on what's happening in tax and submission of your tax return. So you can do that. And finally, if again that's not right, then let's drop right down to our real basic service. So this is £225, okay? Now in that, all we're going to do is make sure you're kept up to date with our newsletter and file the return. Again, they can choose whichever they're doing. That's their choice about it, but you're showing them the value that you're delivering every time. And again, if you want to, you could change the price if you wanted to. There is a button here that allows you to discount. Again, I wouldn't advise it, but it's there for you. So you've talked through the value that you're delivering in a tax return, even that they're not even aware that you're doing, and that's the key thing. So like I said, if you had a partnership, you would add another item which would be in the tax return. You can price in here mortgage letters if you want. You can price in here special work, it's just value work, okay? But having looked at the business and having looked at the tax, then we now have a fee that they are happy with, okay? And like I said before, if they question this fee at any point in this conversation, you'd say, well, then we need to go back and look at this because you don't understand, let's look at how valuable these things are to you and you can decide what you want to keep and what you don't. It's all their choice. We're not pushing like anything. We're just giving them the option to buy additional services from us. Once they're happy with that, we can generate a proposal. So the software generates what we call the fixed price agreement. And this is a statement to make very clear what is and what isn't included in the quote. Because what we've learned is there's a massive amount of scope creep with a lot of people when you do work. That you start doing a job and then often what happens is that there's a massive scope creep, you don't charge for it, you don't even have a discussion about it, and it allows us to it just doesn't sort of work right with us. I just want to cancel that, I'm not sure why that's come up through. It's in a virtual machine and it's just having a little moment.
Just while you're pulling that up, Emma, I noticed a couple of questions coming up in the chat.
All right, okay.
I thought it might be a good opportunity just to answer
yes,
that.
please, because I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, you got it up. All right.
It's fine. You carry on with the questions while I just.
Yeah. So one from David Warren, you asked the question: what underpins the figures, and is there scope for regional variance? The regional variance. Well, obviously, yes. The figures we regularly benchmark accountants across the UK, and we'll take those sort of averages and put them in there to give the going rates, if you like. But bear in mind, a lot of this is value-based pricing. You've mentioned regional variance. Now, I appreciate lots of people will change their prices if they are pricing competitively in different regions, but actually the value to somebody is the same wherever they are. And actually, when you are really selling the value in what you do, it doesn't matter what region you're based in. And so, yes, by all means, there is the flexibility to change the prices back end. It's not something that I would generally advocate, and maybe Emma has a different opinion on that, but for me, it's what it's valued at to the customer at the end of the day, isn't it? Go on, Emma, because I've lost track of the next one.
I was going to say that obviously I do understand that sometimes I've noticed when I've worked with people that they have prices for, say, inner London and outer London, different because of the expectations of the businesses in there. That's your choice, okay? And we can set that up to have two sort of ways of pricing. But obviously that's quite a complex way of having to think about your business. Most of the time, as Shane says, what we're trying to do is create a standard, systematic way of pricing that anybody in your practice can use. It doesn't have to be the partners. So what we do is try and work out what those prices should be.
Spot on. Okay. Look, there's been quite a few questions flicked by me. So while Emma just finishes this part off, if you've got a question that's not been answered yet, just pop it into the chat box afresh, maybe a copy and paste exercise, and then we'll just go through them.
Okay, that's great. So I just wanted to show you really the proposal that comes out, okay? So again, this is completely customizable, so you have your logo in, you have different, whatever fields you want in here. But basically it's about stating what we're doing. So they're choosing to work with us, and to avoid any misunderstanding, here's the agreement. That's what we're going to do. So if you remember, I talked about the language you use. So as part of our no surprises fixed fee policy, your investment in our 3-star compliance service is just 422 plus VAT payable monthly, and your payment is over 10 instalments. So we've made that very clear what they're having. The figure is on the completion of your accounts, and this fixed fee has been calculated on the basis that your account systems produce average quality computerized records as defined by the accounting systems rating sheet provided to you. So we've agreed that. Can everybody hear the lawnmower, or is it just me?
There is some interference on your speaker, that's for sure. I didn't know it was a lawnmower. It just seems to be when you're speaking. So.
Do you mind just holding on while I just shut the window?
Peter Ross, just to answer your question, all of that is just configurable in the back end.
Yes, it's
switch
completely
to on off.
configurable, yes. Okay.
It's 10 installments, by the way. The reason why we recommend make it 10 installments is because when you make it 12 installments, it's so easy just to let it carry on in the way that it is. When you make it 10, it motivates you to have another conversation with the client, to review the packages that they're having, maybe have conversations because their circumstances change. And if you're not sitting down and saying, right, okay, well, last year this was right for you, but actually this year your business has changed. Have you considered this? Have you considered this? Have you considered this? When you just let it just ride on every single year, the same thing, actually your clients start to think, my accountant's not helping me as much as they used to now. Maybe I'll look for another one. So, you run that risk. Maybe they just didn't know we did these extra services. Sorry, I chipped in there because you should.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So just a few little things to point out on here, okay? So in our proposal, what we're actually explaining to them is all the value that we bring to them, even without doing just the account. So things that we do that we probably don't make them aware of what we do. So, we remind them of upcoming deadlines. We always do. That's part of what we think. We want to ensure they don't fall foul of any penalties. Just like Christopher said, we want to make sure that it's everything on time. So we'll help them keep good records, make them aware of the things they should be keeping, give them advice and checklists. We'll make sure we do. We'll prompt you when we need, to do the accounts. We'll make you aware of what to submit, what work needs to be done quickly. We want to make it as hassle-free for you as possible. We'll write to you 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the year end to remind you of some key things. This will include planning around expenditure and ensuring tax relief is given at the earliest date to ensure the least amount of tax paid. We often recommend that actually, as Shane was saying, you go out 3 months before the year end and actually have a walk around the business and talk to them and find out what's going on, and use that as a way of trying to spot some tax saving opportunities. Talk to them about what things they're going to be buying. Are they going to be buying new machinery? Are they thinking of getting new vehicles, what's happening in the business? So you can talk to them about that, and then you've got some ideas to give them, help them do some sort of tax planning pre-year end. Okay. Again, we remind them, so we've got stuff going through, and when we bring in your records, we'll log them in, we'll review them to ensure that we've got everything we need, so we can complete everything quickly for you. Okay. And we will confirm that the records are received as per the quality ratings. Okay. And we'll put here, look, so if they don't match, we'll of course contact you immediately so you can decide on the next step. Please note, work cannot start on accounts until all relevant records have been received. That's a really key one, because one of the things that a lot of accountants like to do is guaranteed turnaround time. Turnaround time starts when you have everything you need to start a job, because there's nothing worse than starting a job and then suddenly, you know, a day in you realise that there's stuff missing. And then you actually spend a week chasing that client to get that information in. Well, that shouldn't be part of your turnaround time, because you can't do any work in that period because of the client. So, of course, making sure of that. Here, the things that we do on the statutory accounts, again, we all do, but just to show them, okay? We will carry out an analytical review, a ratio analysis, which helps to ensure that the figures make sense, okay? Now, we do that all the time. We do gross profit percentages, we look at calculations, we make sure that we think, oh yeah, that looks about right, that doesn't. We review your fixed asset register, okay, to make sure you claim for capital allowances, etc., etc. We do that, fixed asset registers, that's what we do anyway. We review in-year payments and those for the following year. So that's debtors and creditors, we do that anyway. Identify any business expenses that you did not know that you have paid. So having a look at that, things private payments. And before finalising a set of accounts, we go through a detailed checklist to review the business accounts, which covers everything required by law, with a special emphasis on ensuring you have adhered to the strict guidelines and regulations for the completion of accounts. We all have checklists in our businesses that we go through when we sign off the file. So all of this stuff is stuff we will do anyway. We're just telling them. And then we're going to arrange a post-year meeting to discuss any issues we notice. And in this case, if you remember, I switched on some things. So I switched on the VAT. As part of what we're doing, we were going to give them taxability to do some tax planning. I switched on the cash flow forecast. And then there was an annual improvement possibility report built in. I switched on payroll. And then there was some accounting and quality records. Then we talked about paying our fees. So we talked about that, didn't we? Communicate the payment terms. To make your cash flow easy and to help with budgeting, we can take your monthly investment by direct debit. Yeah, for agreed upfront payments, which you can do, we have an easy way of payment, including credit cards, payment by finance, payment by cheque, or whatever you can choose. Shane mentioned earlier about unlimited ad hoc advice. This talks about that, okay? Of course, and it does make it very clear, if any of the issues raised at any of these unlimited free consultations or anywhere else, because often it happens when you're out meeting them somewhere, network, require research or analysis beyond the consultation, we will give you a fixed price quotation for that extra work before any additional work is started. It's about valuing your knowledge, your skills, and making it clear in there. If you agree to that extra work order and confirm you're happy to pay, then we'll do everything that you ask, and then we'll do that. So you'll never get an unexpected bill. And then there are other things you can put in here. Then you've got guarantees. So Chris was talking about these, but most of these simple ones again. You know, we want to be fair. We want to meet regularly, talk about things. Any iPods can terminate it. Okay. We have to have mutual trust, mutual support, mutual respect, and integrity. Okay. So they're your values. And then little things here. They'll keep you informed about what's happening. We'll make sure we solve the problem. We'll reply to telephone messages, and you can put a turnaround on that, letters, turnaround, all these sorts of things. Say what, you know, we're going to do what we say we're going to do. So that's about it. Okay. And then the final guarantee, which Chris has mentioned as well, is if you're ever unhappy with any aspect of our work, we will, without question, respect your right to pay whatever amount you feel is more appropriate for that month. Okay. Really important. If somebody complains about something, they don't have the right to claim back for the last 6 months if they haven't told you, because how could you have fixed it? Once they tell you, they have a right to claim back that month's money or to pay you whatever they feel it's worth. But you know, you can't suddenly say at the end of 12 months, oh well, I wasn't really happy, so I'm not paying you. That's not possible. So again, you can talk about that. And then we've got here that you can be signed off. Oh, I've got somebody else's template in here, sorry about that. So here's the tax return, services. We talked about the savings accounts, Nationwide and Halifax, self-employment, the extra things that we're going to do, and then our guarantees. So that's our extra things in there. And finally, we can sign it off. So you can have also a little checklist here that says this is the things that you need to bring in because of what you said. All of that can then be printed and signed, can be emailed, and then you can get it all signed off. And then once you've agreed that price, it's done and dusted. And that's the beauty of it, really. But once that's done, you could just, all you need to do then is do the work. So just to show you very quickly, because I am really conscious of time, is that in the software as well, in the quote, you could workings. And what that shows you, my machine, open it. Is how the price was calculated and what you've done. So for this, for Harry Potter, I'm doing a 3-star service, and this is how it calculated to be. They're a sole trader, we have a base fee for that. They're business to consumer, so we don't adjust for that. They have a turnover range, so there's an adjustment for that. They have average records, so there's an adjustment for that. And then all the things that are part of the 3-level service, so the taxability, the implement possibilities, the accounting records report, the profit review, are all there for us to tick off to say that we've done. We've also said we're going to do 4 VAT returns, £800, 12 months cash flow, £400, and we're doing the payroll weekly for them, and that's the fee for that. So you've got a build-up, but also you've got a checklist to make sure that you're delivering everything you promised, and it's the same here with the tax return. So they've got 2 savings accounts, the earnings from self-employment, and they've got tax return sufficient. All of that is there for you to keep on file. You can either use it for your budgeting, or you can just use it as a checklist to help you get the work done. So it's a really useful way of looking at all of those different things and being able to see that. As Shane said, all this software is completely customizable. So every number in here is just in here so you can see an example of how it works. You can make it your own, and it's very simple for us to change that. So I guess my question to you now is, what prices are you charging? How do these look? Shane, do we need to answer some of the questions? Because I'm
very conscious of time, and we've lost quite a few people now because obviously we've gone over the 90 minutes that we allocated. So what I would like to do is maybe just wrap I don't know if it's worth just turning your microphone off and back on again, Emma, unless it's just in general, maybe my voice has been affected as well, but it's been getting worse and worse from yours, Emma. Lots of questions in here, so I'm not sure the best way to deal with them. I'm sure, like many of us, we've got something else in our diary next. So it's worth just having a quick rapid fire go through them. If you can scroll up from the end, Emma, I'm just about to... VJ, you've asked a question about the going rate. I'm guessing you mean for recruiting an accountant. So just expand on that. Robin, if we can take it in turns, Emma, so I'm just going to answer...
I'm sorry, where are you at?
Robin, you've asked just about how to put the logo in. I think that's probably a question just to ask Jenny outside of this in her clinic next time, for example. Linda, you've said your prices are too low. Look, if that's the case, yes, you can use this on new clients. What we tend to recommend with members is sit down with some of your clients, maybe grade them, rank them in profitability order, sit down with the least profitable and say, look, I don't believe I've been charging you properly. That's not fair on the rest of my clients. Treat them as individuals. Look, I have a piece of software here that allows me to quote the work that I'm doing. Go through that exercise with them. If it's massively different, why don't you just agree a staging process? Just say, look, you're paying a lot less. You have been doing. That's my fault. It's not yours. But I do need to get you in line with the rest of them. Why don't we agree that it'll increase by X amount this year, X amount next year, and then you'll be back onto the normal fee that you should be on. And in our experience, when we've advised AVM members to do that, they've never had that resistance. People really understand that. In fact, they're grateful for getting away with low fees for a long time as well. And the alternatives, if you are charging too low as well, maybe just put some price up across the board. We can advise you more on that if you'd like to have a conversation. No strings on any of the conversations. Happy to have a conversation with you on that.
Chris has made a good point that actually we do also benchmark accountants, and we look at the pricing and we compare their pricing to others, either regionally or across the whole of the UK. So again, that's a good way of seeing how your prices are, how you compare, to get some real facts about it rather than just your gut feel. Yeah,
definitely, yeah. Okay, so Libby, hello, Chris, hiya.
Just going to say, Shane, on pricing, Mark Wickersham, who was with AVM when I did the masterclass, says actually the sky's the limit in terms of what your pricing should be, and they will be different between different types of people. So having a sort of a rate card is useful to get on to times, but then look at increasing it 10%. If you don't get any resistance, then increase it and just there's no reason, you know, there are Price Waterhouse accountants earning £1.5 million a year, you know, and they charge outrageous, what seems to us to be outrageous fees. So it's to keep on pushing them up. As long as you can demonstrate the value, and the higher your price, the less work you have to do. If you cut your prices, which is sort of a tempting thing to do, you end up doing a lot more work and get a lot less in your pocket.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, remember, it's worth what somebody will pay. And as Chris has just said, if you've got the value there, they're going to pay a lot more for it. And if you can deliver value in a low effort way for you, that's high impact for them, then obviously that's where your profit comes in, isn't it?
And I think just the other thing that we don't talk about much as accountants is empathy. And a couple of my clients have said to me recently, well, you know, I feel I can talk to you. And actually that's an, you know, real intangible benefit that, that, you know, they feel that they call, you know, you are going to return their call, you are going to, you know, give them some time. That's worth a huge amount, because so many accountants just don't have any empathy, you know, or any interest even in their clients' businesses.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, right. Okay. In the interest of these questions, and feel free, Chris, if you want to chip in on any. Libby's asked about, you know, the timing of the process. So I would recommend, yeah, you get them to sign up all of those things in one go whilst they're there. The best time to sign somebody up is in that meeting whilst you're having that discussion. For literally every minute you leave it after that, if you say, oh, I'll ping your proposal through or anything like that, you're losing people. Yeah, because they're going to go cold. So the best time, you know, if you imagine like a line on a graph that goes up in terms of excitement and then drops back down again, it's going to start dropping back down again after that meeting's finished. And that little voice in their head's going to be thinking about different things and all of that lot. So strike while the iron's hot. If they're excited, they will sign up with you there and then. And, you know, by all means, give them a cooling off period if they need something like that. But, you know, if it's right for them and you wholeheartedly know that the value you can bring is genuine and ethical, then absolutely sign them up. Okay. Yeah, an annual increase. No, don't do it by inflation. You know, if you feel that you're undercharging, then yeah. What a lot of people do is basically for every year end, they'll just email all those clients. We don't say you're sticking the prices up by 10% or 20% or 30, whatever. Just give them the new price. It's a great way of doing that en masse, but the best possible way is always to have them face to face. But as a shortcut to really get the quick win, yeah, just put the quotes in. Just send the renewal, if you like, every single month to those clients that it's going to affect. We've got so many stories from AVM members where they said, I sent it out, I raised it by 10%, and I was like this, waiting for the phone to ring, and it didn't. Nobody complained. So next time I did it by 20%, nobody complained. Next time I did it by 30%, still nothing. Did it 40%, I had a couple of complaints from clients I wanted to get rid of anyway, and they still didn't go. We've had those feedback several times. What's next?
James, about transitioning non-VAT registered clients.
Okay, you can answer that one, Emma, if you've read.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's an issue, but more importantly, even for the non-VAT registered clients, the whole point of moving on to QuickBooks and Xero is the fact that they're getting real-time information. So the value for them is actually being able to make quick, informed decisions about what's happening in their business. And the value you can bring to that as part of the fee that you do is to help them see and read the dashboards properly. And that means that then, you know, there is an increase in obviously in cost and time and price when you're transitioning them. But if you can give them the value because they can see that what they're doing is they're not working in the dark, so to speak, as far as their money. They can see what's happening all the time. I think that's what gives them the value.
Okay, I think Gareth, you were answering a question there, so forgive me if
Yeah.
that's not the case, but I'll just skim read that. So yeah, Anthony, I mean, you said you increased the rates by 3%, but again, I would just really take a good hard look. And we're happy to benchmark, you know, if you want to some help with that, understanding how you compare with other accountants. Well, I say that, I haven't really discussed that with anybody else in the team, but I'm saying it now, so apologies. Okay, let's just flick through. Any more that you've seen? Because I think some of these are comments as well, so just very conscious I want to get through these things very quickly. Okay, so lots of people saying have to go. Okay, I think we might have got through to the end. Lots of thank yous. So forgive me if I've missed anything. Very conscious of time. Lost about half the audience right now, so we're just left with 95 people. So thank you very much for listening. Please extend that thank you as well just to Emma and Chris for your input. Thank you very much, guys. Really, really appreciated it. And it's been a wonderful session. Thank you. So, yeah, and lots of thanks coming up in the chat box. Brilliant. Well, I'll let you turn off your cameras. I'll leave the chat box up while those thanks are coming in, because they're always welcome and gratefully received, aren't they? And yeah, thanks, guys. Right, I think the chat box is pretty much drying up now anyway. So thanks again, Chris. It's been a real pleasure. Good to see you again. And,
yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, we'll catch up soon.
Hopefully we'll be able to meet soon in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Not be long. All right. I'm going to end this now, everybody. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah, cheers.